Welcome folks, behind me I have 11 levels of redstone displays. Now some people might call them technologies or types of displays, I call them levels. Now of course there is one for every taste and every style, and I'll also be of course showing how each of them work. Also, another thing that I should mention is that all of these are built in fully vanilla Minecraft without any mods, any commands, and no resource packs. If you use resource packs for your redstone displays, sorry, but I'm not your friend. Anyways, first up we of course have the classic redstone lamp display, which you for sure have seen before. I mean, who doesn't use that one? But it's kind of ugly. I mean, redstone lamps, when they're turned off, are fairly reflective. I mean, they're still really bright. So that means you have poor contrast, and in the areas that you don't want to light up, you're stuck with like those weird black borders or whatever colors you might put. Well, regardless, it's not gonna win you much beauty awards. But does it get things done? Absolutely. Is it ugly? Also, absolutely. Which brings me onto level 2, which is a redstone lamp display with tinted glass on top. It just looks so much better. And it's not that complicated either. Like, it's just literally just putting a layer of tinted glass over your traditional redstone lamp display. Just like that. Now I'm screwing it up because I'm doing it on camera, but you know what I mean. There you go. Now the reason why this works is because tinted glass is an opaque block. So essentially what happens is that it keeps daylight from hitting your redstone lamps and reflecting that ugly brown thing. But the redstone lamps that are on, well, the light makes it through just fine. And in case you're wondering, yes, it works at night. And it's even prettier at night compared to our... And that's because the tinted glass also prevents the redstone lamps to light up surrounding redstone lamps. I know it breaks every single law of physics known to mankind, but Minecraft isn't a physics game, okay? It just works. Anyways, I really don't know why you guys aren't using this method more in your builds, but tinted glass has been added in the Caves and Cliffs updates over 4 years ago. Anyways, now on to level 3, which is the same thing as the tinted glass redstone lamp display, just using copper bulbs instead. And the reason behind that is that copper bulbs are just brighter than redstone lamps. So the display looks a little bit more crisp and brighter, so it's clearer to read. It just looks nicer. Beyond that, there's not much else to explain about that one, except the fact that copper bulbs are toggles. So if you need a display that toggles instead of just lit up when you power them on, well, that can be very useful. At this point, you're probably wondering, what's showing the numbers on the display? Well, that's my ridiculously compact, ridiculously over-engineered redstone timer right here with... Yeah, if you want to know how to make these things, then definitely go watch that past tutorial of mine that goes into detail about how to build these things. Spoiler alert, it's much simpler than you might expect. Now on to level 4, the classic piston display. Now this one is a classic because it predates the redstone lamp displays. This is one of the first displays that were in Minecraft. And I think it looks pretty cool. Like, when the lights are turned off, it's like it's seamless. You don't see like creases between the individual blocks like you see with these ones. All things considered, it looks pretty good. Now personally, I prefer the copper bulb display just because of the transitions. I mean, the lighting engine in Minecraft kind of glitches out the pistons, so you see like behind like the pistons for like single frames, which just looks weird. And if you go far away from it, you can see like the heads of the pistons, the green slime. It's a little bit weird. To its credit though, I think it is still much prettier than our bare bones redstone lamp display. Now speaking of classics, on to level 5, well, we of course have the Redstone torch display. Now you might be thinking, ew, this one looks bad. But that's because for Redstone torch displays, you need to be in the dark. And as you can see, when we're at night, it looks awesome. This is one of my favorite displays, not because of the clarity, but because of the aesthetics. You know, it has that nice rounded vintage look, which kind of reminds me of those nice old VFD displays. For more vintage looking builds, this one is awesome. But yeah, for readability during daylight though, yeah, it's really not the best. Now on to level 6, the Trapdoor Display. Now this display is also a classic. Trapdoors have been around for a long time, but we've seen a resurgence of these displays thanks to the new type of trapdoor, the pale oak trapdoor, which is almost plainly white. So it looks, honestly, I gotta admit, it looks pretty good. I mean, it's basically almost perfect white on almost perfect black. Pretty much the only downfall of this design is viewing angles. With pretty much all of our displays so far, we've been able to read them clearly, even at sharp angles. Like this, like you can still read it pretty easily. But sadly, not our trapdoor display. You can still read it at angles, but it's not very clear. Especially from the sides, like reading it from the side like this is pretty hard. Like it's only really clear when you look at it straight from up front. With that aside though, it's definitely one of the better looking ones. Which brings me on to level 7, which is also a trapdoor display, but with dark oak trapdoors, with a white background. And in my opinion, this one looks better than the pale oak trapdoor display. Now it does suffer from the same drawbacks, such as poor viewing angles, but in my opinion, it's fancier looking than the other one. But where it really shines at looking fancy, in my opinion, is at night. I mean, just look at this thing. This thing looks awesome. And that's partly thanks to the natural glow of the redstone torches behind it that give it, like, each number a glow. So yeah, the readability is also excellent on that one. Think it's fair to say that this is definitely one of my favorites. Which brings me to level 8. Now this is a pivotal point in the video where we're gonna start using something called powdered snow. And the way that this works is that if you put a powdered snow bucket in a dispenser and you press on it, the dispenser is able to dispense the powdered snow and it's able to take it back afterwards indefinitely, like this. Which is incredibly useful to make, you know what, displays. Now this one has undoubtedly the best contrast and the best readability out of all of the displays so far, by far. And now you might be wondering, like, oh, those particle animations, they're annoying. Well yeah, but if you back off just enough, they completely disappear, which makes an incredibly clear and readable display. Now the reason why it's red like this is because I'm using maps in front of the dispensers right there, because powdered snow can be dispensed in the same block where a map is without destroying it. So yeah, I chose red for the maps, but you can go with any colors you want. Now the biggest drawback of this display is the viewing angles. Like the red almost completely disappears from the side. It's harder to read, but luckily for us, there is a solution. And that is, if we put maps on the side of the block here, well, we get this sort of like flat surface because maps don't have any lighting effects to them. So yeah, from a distance, this thing looks as good as a texture pack. So yeah, the reason why I used a different display to show this is because you can't put maps on the side of powdered snow, and certainly not just floating in the air between pixels. But regardless, still very cool without a texture pack. So yeah, the readability and clarity on this thing are stellar. Now, do I think that it's pretty? Not really. I think it's kind of ugly. Like, it's just a little bit too plain for Minecraft. Now on to level 9. Now this display is pretty much the same thing as this one, except it's inverted and with black maps instead of red maps. But I think it looks infinitely better. First up, the particles do not affect readability nearly as much as on this one. I think in fact it actually complements it. I think on this one it actually adds to the display experience because it kind of adds like a nice fade out animation for each number. I think it's super cool. Oh yeah, and also not to mention the ridiculous contrasts that this thing has. I mean, it's literally the brightest white powdered snow onto pretty much perfectly dark black. I mean, you can't have more contrast than that in Minecraft. And also, contrary to this one, I think that this one looks much more Minecrafty because the numbers stick out, which I think is incredibly cool. Minecraft 3D display, perhaps? So yeah, this one looks pretty good, honestly. It's not my favorite, but it looks pretty good. Also, the contrast and the insane readability is just awesome from this one. The only thing I haven't mentioned for these two displays yet, though, is that because item frames and maps are entities, well, depending on your entity distance, well, they're eventually going to disappear and leave you with a less pretty looking display. And yeah, from here, they're pretty ugly, especially this one right here. Anyways, now on to level 10, which is by far my favorite one so far. Now with this one, we're of course still using powdered snow. The only difference is that instead of putting, let's say, a map behind the powdered snow and hiding the map with the powdered snow to create two states, well, instead, we're putting glass and we're putting a map, or preferably a painting, in front of it, and when we put powdered snow, well, it hides it just like that. Isn't it cool? And another reason why this one is my favorite is because we can use pistons instead of dispensers. Let me show you. You see here I have our same setup, but the powdered snow hooked up to a sticky piston. And what I can do is I can push the powdered snow inside here, it hides the painting, and I can push it back right here. The reason why this is nice is because dispensers are toggles. And for computational builds, toggles are nightmares for reliability. So yeah, this method is really sweet because it offers you the really good clarity and readability that powdered snow offers you without being a toggle. And also, because it's flat, well, it fixes the biggest problem with our other powdered snow displays, and that's viewing angles. The viewing angles are perfect, just like the earlier Redstone lamp displays, which is so cool. And also, for those of you wondering, the readability is also extremely good at night, just because of how bright powdered snow is. And in my opinion, it just looks awesome. To me, it's one of the best looking, if not the best looking display in this whole video, just because of how smooth but sharp and seamless it is. It's awesome. I really like it. The only downside of this display is when you go out of your entity distance. I mean, the readability just becomes 0. Like, you can't see a thing. And it also does it earlier than the item frames with the maps, for some reason. Which is what brings me to level 11. Which looks the exact same as the previous one, because it is. The only difference is that it uses the dispensers instead of pistons. And also, what's cool about it is that the paintings completely hide the particles of when the dispensers break the powdered snow, which is super cool. But yeah, this one, when you go out of your entity distance, instead of revealing powdered snow behind the paintings, well, it reveals dispensers, so you can still read it. So yeah, if you don't mind that your display is a toggle, or if you need it to be a toggle, then this one is just perfect. Well guys, that was it for today's video, and if you enjoyed it, well, please leave a like, and if you want to see other content like this, well, subscribe. And with that said, I'll catch you guys in the next one.